Well, this is Zwift Coaching Podcast episode 14. Matt Rowe here, currently sat in the city where the reigning Tour de France champion was born, Cardiff in Wales. Joined by Coach Hendy, Greg Henderson. Where are you two, Greg?
Mate, I'm in sunny Dunnos. I'm in Dunedin, New Zealand. So it's not sunny and it's not warm.
I'm sure it's beautiful though. And yeah, we've Kev, who obviously normally joins us, is out on a training camp with some of his athletes, so can't join for this one. But we have got a special guest who is not only an inspiration within the sporting world, but also outside of it. The Don, Tim Don. How are you, Tim?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Good man. Thanks for joining. I guess first off, Tim, if you can just kind of give us, I guess your kind of elevator pitch. So if someone said, "Who is Tim Don?" Go with that.
Gosh, just someone who likes to train, someone who's kind of like hopefully a little bit relaxed, maybe stressed at times, but enjoys life. Just someone who loves sport, and it's been a massive part of my life, even from before when I did triathlon. So awesome. Nice chap-ish.
Yeah, a nice chap. That's how we all like to be thought of, isn't it? Yeah. So how did you get into sport at an early age?
Growing up, I was always into sport. I was never into computers. Playing on the old Atari and Commodore 64. I was always outside playing football, running, mountain biking, and whatnot. And I swam from an early age. And at my local swimming pool, Hampton Open Air, in West London, there was a local triathlon club, and one evening I decided to go down there, and I really enjoyed the vibe and atmosphere. There was a pretty good athlete at the time who was called Spencer Smith, who trained there, and that's really how I got into triathlon back in the early 90s.
Awesome. And was Spencer, he's kind of your first coach, I guess?
No, he wasn't my coach. I was really lucky. The club coach there was a guy called Graham Fletcher, and he was a young guy. I mean, I was only, I think, like 14 at the time, and he was doing his degree at, I think it was called then Borough Road, Brunel University, in sports science and exercise physiology, and he liked triathlon. So he was the club coach there, and then I think he saw that I enjoyed the sport, and he took me under his wing, and he was one of my first coaches. And it was funny to actually, when I look back, really scientific. But back in the early 90s, he lent me his heart rate monitor that he got through the university. I think a couple of years later, I had an SRM through the university. So, I've always valued coaching massively.
Wow. SRM back in those days, that must have been the only option for power meters back then. I mean, Greg, you obviously trained and racing back in those days. It was SRM or nothing, eh?
The SRM was the size of a small laptop in these days, so it was absolutely humongous. I remember the SRM, but that's really interesting. Sports science and exercise metabolism, it's actually exactly what I've studied, and it's a great lead on to sports coaching, and it actually helps as an athlete also. So just having that little bit of knowledge about the training sessions that you're actually employing is I think it's really key, and it's really critical to become the top of your sport. But I can't imagine applying it to all three. And like, to be a top of the sport at triathlon, it means you're not only good, you're world class at running, swimming, and cycling. I mean, how do you actually how do you time management three really, really difficult disciplines?
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's that synergy of the week. It's knowing the demands of the swim sessions, the bike sessions, and the run sessions. And we're a pretty young sport. We only had our first World Championships in 1989, first Olympic Games in 2000 as a sport. So there were lots of mistakes made along the way by many coaches. But I definitely think now incorporating all the sports science and, the metrics that we can measure the body, that definitely helps the coaches. But I do find you never increase evenly across all three. You often have to do a specific bike block or run block or swim block. Those athletes that really improve one and the other two don't drop off, that's phenomenal. I don't know how they do that. I know early season I tend to do more running just because of the weather, and my biking and swimming drop off. So yes, it's a management thing, I think, balancing all three and working on your weaknesses, but still keeping your strengths as well.
And if you had to pick one, do you have a strength? Do you have one that you could maybe miss that session in favour of another session? Do you have a strong leg?
It depends what kind of phase I'm in. I would say, people tend to cut their longer rides a bit short, but then that can bite you in the butt with Ironman. But I think running's my strength. I grew up, with a running pedigree, running on the track and cross country. So yeah, definitely if I'm going to miss one, I'll definitely miss a run. They say you can't win the race in the swim, which you can't, but you can certainly lose it. So you really need to, keep swimming up. You need to be in the race from the beginning and, in the top of the game.
Yeah, I think that idea of you can't win it early on in the event, but you can lose it. That kind of transfers into long distance. Well, Tour de France, right? You can't win the Tour in the first week, but you could certainly lose it. So that statement is definitely resonates for me. And roughly, is there a kind of a rule or guidance for any triathletes out there of how triathletes should split their time across the three disciplines? So I think the bike makes up the lion's share of a triathlon in terms of time spent in competition. Does this translate into having to put the lion's share of your training time into the bike?
Absolutely. I mean, yes, 50% of the race is definitely the bike, and especially, with the amateurs. But the downside to that is it's the one that's most time consuming. So I think, cycling is definitely where I do, up to 15 hours a week and maybe 6 to 7 hours running and about 6 to 7 hours swimming. But again, because we're balancing three disciplines, we can't do too many, I wouldn't say, junk mileage. Every kind of session has to count because it's burning a match that could be for running or swimming. And again, the other problem that lots of triathletes get is injuries, because if we're just mostly running injuries or overusage, and if we're just a runner, we'd probably spend 4 to 5 hours a week in the gym, doing preventative exercises, but you just don't have the energy to do that. So it is that fine line of balancing, and we often do sessions where you put two together. We call them brick sessions, where you're running off the bike, or you have your trainer set by the pool, you're jumping out the pool, some specific sessions. But definitely cycling, that's especially for Ironman and 70.3. It's definitely, where you can make big time up and become really efficient, which then helps your run as well.
Interesting.
Very good. I think it's I think the key there is obviously, like we talked about, the time management, but also the stress in which each of those disciplines puts on your body. You have to really manage that too. If we were going to move on to career highs and career lows, I can probably pick two out straight away, but what would yours be, Tim? Like, I would like to hear a little bit about that world record you broke. For me, that was just absolutely fantastic. I just looked at the average speed of your 180k bike ride. I mean, it's phenomenal, mate. If you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the bigger highlights of my career for sure. I mean, I've only done 6 Ironmen, to be honest. I haven't done too many, but I really felt I was an accomplished 70.3 athlete. So last year we put all our eggs in one basket to focus on an Ironman, and we knew Brazil was a fast course because the year before Brent McMahon won, a Canadian guy who was only, I think, 40 seconds off the old world record. But you need a bit of luck. You need the weather to go to be right. And those things played into my hands. And I started to work with a new bike coach called Matt Bottrell, a British guy, for the last year and a half, and he's really brought my overall cycling on and my pacing. And I think it was a 4:07 for the 180 kilometer bike. So and I could back that up with a 2:44 marathon. So that's definitely a highlight of my career for sure. But records are meant to be broken, right? So someone will go quicker on the course.
That was the nice part of it. That your highs. What about your lows? And again, I think we can probably guess what your low is, but I'll leave you to explain.
Yeah, 2 lows actually. One was Beijing Olympics. 3 days before, I got food poisoning, so I was in amazing shape. in that year, that was kind of like my peak couple of years for ITU. And obviously I just raced like like someone who had food poisoning.
Well, what was it you ate? Any idea what gave you that food poisoning?
Yeah, it was some chicken. We were on a training camp in Korea, a small island with a federation. And it was the day before we were flying into Beijing, 3 days before the race. And it was, a piece of chicken that wasn't cooked. And actually another athlete, Holly Abel, who was in the British women's team, she got food poisoning as well because we all ate together. When you put 4 years of your life into what would have been, 2 hours, just not to be able to, race full gas it's pretty heartbreaking, as I'm sure people know.
A bit of dodgy chuck, mate. A bit of dodgy chuck just threw you down.
Taken down by a chicken.
I got under race weight, so that was one good thing. Hey. But no, obviously, the other big setback was last year after breaking the world record, I was in good shape leading up to the World Championships in Kona, and I got hit by a car 3 days before, and broke my neck, C2 vertebrae. And unfortunately, I'm very lucky, first of all, that I'm here and I can walk. But I had to wear what's called a halo for 3 months, which Greg's seen. He knows what it's like and how awkward it can be. But that was definitely almost career-ending, heartbreaking at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of got you through that phase? 'Cause as you said, kind of career-ending. And I think a lot of people's heads would just drop. What kind of got you through that period?
No, don't get me wrong. It was, I'm not, I've got through it now, but there were definitely some dark times. But for me, it was just that thought of, I didn't want someone else to decide that my career was over, through carelessness. I'd rather try and fail than just never try. And as I say, triathlon, cycling, swimming, running, it's more than a job to the professionals. It's a passion, it's a lifestyle, and it gives us as professionals so much. And I always wanted to try and come back. To what level, I still don't know. I'm still in the recovery phase, trying to race. Not quite as fast as I was last year. But I think, I had amazing support from my family and friends and the local community. I was living in Boulder, Colorado. And, I think that really, helped me on those days when I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain. I can't even ride at 60 watts, let alone, ride at, 280 watts for 4 hours. So I think that definitely helped. And I had, good physio, good coaches that, still go above and beyond. That definitely helped me get through it.
And a huge motivation and drive. And I mean, that goes without saying with an elite athlete, but I saw it firsthand, was the dedication and the commitment you put in. It was just progressive day by day. You were just doing a little bit more, then a little bit of a setback, a rest, and a little bit more. It was just incredible to watch the dedication, the commitment that you put into the comeback, and every result you get from now, absolutely 100% deserved.
Yeah, I was just trying to focus on the process and not do anything crazy, just take each day as it came. And slowly I was getting a little bit stronger, faster, but still, gosh, when I look back and I was doing 10 minutes on I couldn't even ride on my own bike. I had to ride on one of those gym bikes with the handlebars as high as my head. It still not amazes me, but I still think, wow, I'm so lucky to come back from doing that just to be able to toe the start line and try and race the boys again.
Yeah, absolutely. You can stand proud of that one, Tim. I was looking on your website actually, and there's a little video that shows the I think it's a sign-on sheet for the World Champs last year. And it's got signatures next to all the competitors' names. One name is left blank, and it's obviously your name. And watching that, sent kind of shivers down my spine. Very, very powerful image. So for anyone out there, check out Tim's website and have a look at that video. Is it timdon.com, your website?
Yes, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, great little, very powerful video on there. Obviously, you're back now, Tim, training for the future. What does your training look like now?
Yeah, at the moment, I'm actually I've got an Ironman on Sunday, so I'm on a bit of an easier week this week, thank goodness. But I'm back training, not full time, but back to normal training routine. Still though, now the issues we're having is I'm still getting lots of physio on my neck because I don't have the mobility, and there's lots of imbalances now coming out as I put more volume and intensity in lower down. My left hip's really tightening up when I do lots of running, just because my head doesn't sit on straight anymore. But no, at the moment, I'm back to training, and hopefully I can go a little bit quicker in this Ironman than I did in my last, and and hopefully I can qualify for Kona at this race in Copenhagen as well.
Lovely. And then how are you using Zwift to train? Do you use Zwift Run as well? So obviously you've got two disciplines you can use Zwift for potentially, or is it just on the bike?
At the moment, I'm just using it on the bike, but to be honest, it was a lifesaver when I first found Zwift at the end of last year. Not being able to ride outside, and it really helped me get back into training, and it was a lot easier as well for me to look after the kids while I was riding, because they just loved it. When I'm just riding on my own normally inside, they're like blooming caged animals, but they're going, oh look, there's a dolphin, or there's a sunken pirate ship, or there's a volcano, or that's London. So for me, in a funny way, it was a double. I think my wife loved it because I got to look after the kids a lot more while I was training. But no, now it's brilliant. My coach, Matt and Julie, all the data's there. They know exactly what sessions they put in, and they put it into Session Builder, and then I can get down and I can just do my sessions, and it's not that I'm afraid to ride outside, but when I want to ride hard, especially time trialing, obviously not on a road bike. Zwift for me is a godsend. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And because it's so measured and specific. You mentioned about 15 hours a week of bike training, of which it's all about quality and specificity. Do you, again, that's got to be a huge plus to be using Zwift, because every second you spend on the bike turning the pedals is generating stress on your body, as opposed to out on the road where you're going around bends, freewheeling, and all that type of stuff. So bang for your buck, in terms of hours spent training, indoors has got to be advantageous, and especially so for you with so many disciplines to cover.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no. If you freewheel, you freewheel, and your coach blooming knows about it as well. I think time management's awesome. For professionals, especially when we do have 3 disciplines to do a day mostly, or 4 if we're going into the gym. You can really get on, do your session, kind of get off, and you've hit the numbers or hopefully you've hit the numbers, and you can see it, where you're dropping off, and you can choose, where you're going to ride as well, and how. I just think as you say, that time management and the fact that you've got all those metrics there, for me, it just makes it a no-brainer.
Another really important thing, I reckon, would be the when you're in your time trial position, you'd actually be able to hold that position and head down, looking through the top of your eyes as hard as you can, so you keep that aero form. Whereas when you're on the road, if you're having to watch out for cars, pedestrians, street lights, corners, you're always coming in and out of your aero position. So it's I think it must be so beneficial to be able to ride it for long periods of time in that actual aero position.
Oh, but don't tell everyone that. Everyone talks about their CDA, and I'm like, but you can do that for a 90k or 180k, and the only way you can do that is by doing it. And you're right. I mean, with Zwift, I'm always rolling my shoulders, shrugging, especially when I'm doing my intervals. I do some drills as well with my position. But no, I mean, it makes such a big difference over 180k. We're talking 3 to 4 minutes of savings just by holding that position for longer, pushing over hills, not getting out the saddle. But you need to train the body. Otherwise, you're going to try and hold the position in a race, and you're going to get stiff neck, stiff back. And when you've got to run a marathon after, you're in all sorts of trouble. But don't tell everyone that.
No, but nobody will know.
And you said about, so we're agreeing, position, getting that tuck in is super important. But you broke your neck last year. How has, fantastic environment, kind of with the physio off the bike, on the bike, kind of easing back into training your neck strength.
Oh, absolutely. If anything, now I think my position's slightly better because it hurts when I look up, but not drop my head. So my coach is loving it. But no, I mean, it's just such a great tool. As I say, all you need to do is focus on is turning the pedals over. And when you're a professional, that's what it's about. When I ride outside, we don't have, team cars and so forth following us. So you do have to be careful. And when you're riding in the TT position a lot, especially on the English countryside roads, they're so beautiful, but they're so twisty and turny and up and down. And it is hard to maintain 30, 40 minutes of just holding your aero position just because of the geography. So no, I mean, it's just, yes, it's definitely.
Yeah, I think that it's discipline ultimately, isn't it? Because I mean, getting in that aero position is uncomfortable. I think there's a tendency for amateurs, especially who don't put any training into holding an aero position, that when it gets hard, you almost kind of sit more upright. You kind of relax your upper body and just focus on just churning the pedals around, stamping the pedals around, and your form and your posture completely goes out the window. So I think for everyone listening, there's to be a better bike rider, you can become fitter, stronger, and all that, but also become more efficient, more aero. So just have a little think about trying to reduce the surface area at the front, and what better environment to do that on Zwift. Tim, have you got a kind of a go-to training session that you use or you really enjoy? And your response will be made up into a Zwift session for our listeners. So every podcast has a session attached to it. What's your kind of go-to session?
Yeah, it's a 4-hour time trial at Threshold.
Oh. Job done.
No, for me, I like to do a session of microbursts. So, I do a warm-up, maybe 20, 30 minutes. And then depending on the session, it's every 5 minutes or every 7 minutes, I'm doing a 30-second max sprint, of which 15 seconds is out the saddle, 15 seconds is in the saddle. And I would do that for about 20 minutes, then do 5 to 10 minutes easy. Then I would repeat that 2 more times. Because I still think, as an Ironman athlete holding those lower watts, it's still important to almost shock the body, for those, well, when I say massive watts, it's all relative, I guess. But for me, if I can push, average 700, 750 watts for 30 seconds, I'm over the moon. So that's my favorite session, just because it's so different as well than, 3 by 20 minutes or sweet spot work, threshold work, and things like that.
Awesome. We'll make that into a Zwift workout that you'll be able to download from the description of the podcast and give it a go. And if it hurts, you can blame Tim.
But it only hurts if it hurts, you've done it right, because you can be soft on those, but it doesn't help you. You've really got to go full gas.
Absolutely. That's how I was saying. Rather than going out and training for hours and hours and hours, riding steady, everyone's got busy lives these days. Specificity is key. So get this session done, short, sharp, put the pain in, and that's gonna stress your body equally to that of a 3-4 hour long steady ride. So also, obviously, Tim, you're also involved in Zwift's Tri Academy, which, for those of you who don't know what the Zwift Academy is, basically it provides the opportunity for you to train like a pro and maybe even become one under the guidance of experts. So Kev Poulton looks after the roadside, and Tim, you're involved in the Tri side. So how's all that going?
You know what? It's been brilliant. I mean, I actually met everyone about 2 months ago in California. They were at the wind tunnel at Specialized, and to actually meet them and follow their journeys. I mean, it's a bit different to the cycling one, where they're not training. The end prize isn't to be a professional athlete. Maybe it is, but I think it's more achieving their potential, and hopefully that it's qualifying for Kona and then fighting for a podium in their respected age groups. But for me, I know age groups train hard, but when you see it firsthand, when they're balancing their work, their life, one of the guys, Golo, he's just had a baby a couple of weeks ago, and he's trying to balance that in as a medical student. It's just fantastic. And, for me to help them out along their way, with my experience it's just a great project, and I can really see, the benefits of it, for the athletes. And, it's great to be a part of.
It'd be great having someone like you that could, just as they're heading into a competition too, just what sort of fine tuning they could do, whether or not you're the actual coach or maybe more of a mentor to these guys and girls. It would be just a perfect sounding board to send an email across and just sort of let you know how they're feeling, what should they expect in this next race, and this is, I'm nervous for this. Should I be nervous about this? And what a great sounding board to have Tim Don on board the Zwift Academy.
Yeah, I don't know if they listen to me, but no, it is good. No, and it's great, especially there's Bex, who's a British girl. She only did her first Ironman a couple of weeks ago, and she came 4th overall out of the pro women as well. It's great when she was like, well, I want to eat rice. I want to make homemade rice cakes for the bike and the run. And I was like, I don't think that's going to work on the run, running a marathon with 1 kilogram of rice. So, it was just great for me to just go, make her think about things as a triathlete, not as 3 single sports. I'd like to think I've had at least 1% impact, but also, for them, it's just a journey and a learning process. And, as I say, they've really embraced it, and, it's an amazing opportunity, and, they're all performing, out absolutely fantastically to the best of their ability. And it's, definitely giving them extra motivation for sure.
Fantastic. Tim, been great chatting to you. I guess before we go, can you just give us a ride on? So, in game in Zwift, you got I guess Greg can demonstrate the best.
Ride on.
Ride on.
A very British ride on.
That is a very lovely ride on, I say, old chap.
Lovely. Ride on.
Right on, awesome.
Right on.
Lovely. Well, I'll say, Tim, thanks for joining us, mate. Good to chat, and good luck with the rest of your rehab and your season.
Righto, Tim. Catch you later, mate.
All right, cheers, guys. Thank you. Thanks.
All right, good to chat to Tim there. Moving on now, we've got our cycling terminology. So, Greg, you've got 30 seconds, my friend, to define dancing on the pedals.
Dancing on the pedals, mate. That's when you're out of the seat, usually heading uphill, and it almost feels like you can't feel the chain. You're just floating away, cruising up the climb, and you're passing people or dropping people up the climb, and your next thing you know, you're halfway up and you're still just floating. You're just dancing on the pedals, and you're pedaling nice and fluidly, nice and easy. And it's just become a real ease for you to turn the pedals over today.
Good on. So basically, mate, that's how you spent your whole career, right? Going up the climbs.
Exactly. Dancing in the pedals, mate.
Dancing on the pedals. Good sensations. You're on a good day. I always think dance on the pedal.
Alberto Contador, mate.
Contador, right. Absolutely. Smaller guys, right? I always think. You never quite see, big units dancing on the pedals. It's more just, just churning them over somehow. Cool. All right, quick fire question. So we can both give a view on this one. Train early in the morning before work, or an evening session after work?
I would have to say I would like to get my training done nice and early in the morning before work. Yeah,
I think I'm the same. I guess a lot of it depends on whether you're a kind of a morning person or an evening person. For me, personally, a morning person, but I think both from a training point of view, just if you get up in the morning, just kickstarts your system, right? Your metabolism gets going, with that release of endorphins, you feel good all day, and then you can kind of carry on with your day, and no matter what comes, and whether you've got to stay at work late or you've got something else that crops up, you've banked your training. It's job done. So if you have got the luxury of being able to choose before or after, I think we're both agreeing before. But sometimes after work is the only option. So obviously better to train after work than not at all.
Absolutely, mate.
And lucky for you, mate, you never had that dilemma, did you? It was a pro bike ride. It's just train when you like.
That was the thing, and often we would train a little bit later on purpose too, so that we could train all the way through and skip lunch, and then come back, and it's not long till dinner. So it was almost strategic in leaving late, so that we could, when you're trying to cut calories and make weight for the Tour de France or something like that, it became quite important to train a little bit later in the morning.
Yeah. And did you have like a normal time that you try and head out? So if you weren't trying to do that strategic piece, would it be 9, 10 o'clock anywhere in there, or was it day to day changing?
When I was in summer in Melbourne or on this side of the world, it would be usually a really early morning because of the heat. In the summer it would be so hot, and we'd be and then also because of the traffic in Melbourne, where I trained a lot there, so we'd be trying to dodge traffic quite a bit. So there'd be a lot of early bunch rides. But then, in Girona, it was always 10 o'clock at the bridge. There was no doubt. Didn't even matter if it was summer and 40 degrees. You'd still go at 10 o'clock at 10 o'clock at the bridge.
10 o'clock at the bridge. I like that. I mean, that's same as my brother in Monaco. I think it's the same thing. 10 o'clock at a bridge. As it goes, and just that, you don't even need to text who's going to turn up. You just rock up, and there's always going to be someone there, right?
Yep, 100%.
Absolutely. I'll get there a little bit earlier for a quick coffee, maybe. All right, a couple of Q&As. So we've got 4 questions from listeners. So as always, thanks for those who have submitted questions, and if you've got any questions, we've got a bit of activity going on a few Zwift Facebook groups, but also on Twitter. You can tweet us your questions. So first question is from Tiyuko Massimo via Twitter, and Tiyuko's asking, why do road sprinters sprint out of the saddle mostly, while track sprinters sprint in the saddle? And for me, Greg, this is a real kind of brain bender. I really had to kind of get thinking, and I asked a friend of mine, Dr. Len Parker Simpson, for a view on this. And ultimately, I don't think there is, in my mind, a definitive reason why. But for me, both track sprinters and road sprinters, you get out the saddle to accelerate. But I think that the main difference here is when you're kind of up to speed. So, if you think about the power we produce is a factor of how hard we push on the pedals, i.e. strength, multiplied by how fast we turn them, your cadence. The track guys, and the reason these guys pedal so fast is that they produce so much power. So to produce 2,000 watts plus at, say, a cadence of 100 revs a minute, you need to produce so much force. I don't think the human body can kind of get that strong. So to get the crank torque required, you use velocity or cadence to support it. So if you think track sprinters are typically up around 130 revs a minute, huge power being produced, 2,000 watts upwards on a 45-degree angle when going on the bend. I also think kind of coordination required in these conditions. So basically, I don't think it's possible to be out the saddle, round a bend, getting your brain, your legs, your arms, your body all at 80 kilometers an hour, 130 revs a minute at that 45-degree angle. I think that coordination piece is just so tricky on the track. Yeah,
well, it's I totally agree with you there, and I think the main thing with the road sprinters, you think 53.11, it's they don't sprint even. The gearing ratio there isn't quite as big on the track, so and the track riders put out more power. They both actually sprint about the same speed. Like if you look at a road sprint, it's about 73 k's an hour, 74 the really fast guys, and that's about the average speed of what the track sprinters are doing. Same thing for the flying 200. But the other thing, the real simple thing you have to take into account is the G-forces that you're hitting as you go around a 45-degree bend. So you can't actually physically stay out of the seat at 75 k an hour round a banking like that. So it's just simply you just throw it into your saddle. And actually, a few guys on the road have tried the seated sprint. I know Teo Boss, he was one of the world's best track sprinters, and he came across to the road, and he was quite successful there for a while. And he was one of the guys that was trying to almost reinvent the wheel, so to speak, and he started doing quite a few of his. He would accelerate out of the seat on the road, but then he would sit down and try and overcome aerodynamics with by sitting in the seat and getting really small, and of course, okay, your actual peak power drops, but he was trying to hold his top speed by sitting down, but it just sort of never really. There was always someone that would have his wheel, and then they would get out of their seat to accelerate and come past. So it just seems the road is just something to do with the cadence. And on the track, it's the G-forces when you go around the corner.
Yeah, makes sense. That aerodynamic point, yeah, that's huge. Cool. Moving on then. So hopefully that helps, Yuko. Next question is from Ron Stapleton. And Ron's asking, what is the best way to rotate in a group, single line or chain gang?
Well, that's all dependent really on the varying levels of ability. I agree. Let's just say that we want to go as fast as we possibly can, and we've got a large discrepancy in strength. Then I think that's when you want the single line, because obviously your stronger guys are going to be doing big long pulls on the front, and your weaker guys will just be throwing off, trying to maintain pace. The times that you would use the chain gang would be obviously a nice even team. Everyone's as strong as each other. And there's another time that you use chain gangs, often in a really, really windy conditions, when it's mega crosswind or a block headwind, because you can't actually keep that speed at the front for very long, and the power you have to produce is so high to try and hold speed into a headwind. So you want to go through and off as quick as you possibly can in a headwind or a crosswind.
Yeah, and I think completely agree with all you said there. And I think chain gang also has the other benefit of making all workload equal. So in a breakaway, you may see a breakaway in a race now. They're all doing chain gang. That's just to make sure nobody's kind of shirking on turn. You know, you maybe the most efficient way to travel would be single file, all doing maybe varying length turns. But one thing chain gang does do is kind of give you, it makes it an honest race. So everyone's doing equal work. Nobody can really shirk a turn. That's kind of where chain gang kind of comes into its own.
Absolutely, no, that's 100%.
I also do think though it's quite chain gang is more of a, if you try and do chain gang for looking at the Tour de France, man. Guys are doing chain gang for 150k in a breakaway. That's mentally quite challenging as well. At least with riding single file, it's you can just kind of switch off a little bit more, just kind of look at the wheel ahead, slightly more relaxed maybe.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and there's and then you look at the guys on the front of the chase and the break too. They just do those big long turns on the front, and it's just it's about maintaining a pace, isn't it? I think when desperation comes in, or that sniff of the finish line, or a team's time trial is involved, when you're under maximal pressure, I think that's when you'll find the most efficient, the fastest way to ride the bike.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it also comes down to number of, it depends how many riders you've got, right? If you've got 4 riders, there'll be little value in trying to do a chain gang, because as soon as you pulled off the front, you're still pushing the wind basically. So chain gang, you got 2 lines. If you've got 4 riders, 50% of your team there are pushing the wind. Whereas single file, you pull off the front and you're back on the back quicker. So I think from an efficiency point of view, I think the science would tell us that single file is the most efficient way to travel in a smaller group, especially.
Yep, I agree.
Cool. All right, there you go, Ron. Next question is from Carly Lewis. So Carly's asking, what is the best way to set your saddle height? I've had 2 bike fits who resulted in me having very different saddle heights, and she's referenced a 4.5 centimeter difference, which is huge. First point for me there is these bike fits, great, definitely get you in the ballpark. But there is no right and wrong position, that goes for saddle height as well. There's kind of a range in which your saddle height should be, and it may be that within this 4.5 centimeter range lies a good saddle height. And for me, without getting too technical about it, I would say sit on your bike with your feet unclipped. Put one of your cranks, your pedals at the bottom of the stroke, and you should just about be able to put your heel on the pedal. without kind of rocking your hips and kind of leaning over. So with your hips being straight, your heel should just about to be able to sit on the pedal. And of course, when you clip your foot in, then your heel gets risen and it gives you that natural bend in your leg. So as a kind of ballpark region, that's I don't think you go too far wrong using that method.
Mate, it's just it's the old school way, isn't it? Put the old heel on the bottom of the pedal. It's but yeah, 4.5 centimeter. I mean, that's a huge difference. I mean, you'd have a look. You'd try it there. You'd just try it that simple ballpark way. Put your heel on the bottom of the pedal there, at the bottom of the stroke, and then take a measurement of that and see how close that is to in between the 4.5 centimeters. And it's probably going to be like kind of smack bang in the middle. So I'd go pretty close to halfway between the two, because 4.5 centimeters. There's a chance one of them is way out.
Yeah.
So have a look, and even try split the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And whatever you're going to do, Carly, just incremental changes. Just nudge it up, a couple of mil here, a couple of mil there. If you suddenly change your saddle height 4.5 centimeters overnight, you're probably going to get some sort of injury and pain, at least pain somewhere. So slow and steady, small changes. Our final question is from Ray Saunders. It's sent in via Twitter, so thank you, Ray. And the question is, how do pros motivate themselves for such a long season? Tour Down Under to the Worlds, it's a long time. Greg, you're probably best to comment on this one. I haven't done it.
I got a funny story about this, actually. An old mate of mine, Nick Gates, he he's retired now, but I remember we were rolling out in stage 1 of Tour Down Under, and January, and it's we just started up this climb, and I think we turned right onto some crosswinds, and the peloton had broken already, and all you could hear from the middle of the bunch was Nick Gates going, "I'm over this season already." So I don't know how he was going to stay motivated through to the Worlds, that's for sure. It's going to be a long season. But actually, in fairness, to answer that question, it all comes down to the goals for the season. What you're actually self-selected or team selected to peak for. So for myself, for example, Tour Down Under was always a goal, so I'd be in good condition for Tour Down Under, and then there was always a chance for a small break. You may turn up to some races and you become like the helper or the domestique in those races, to then build up for your next race, which might be Paris-Nice would be my next goal, etc. And then you have a little break, and then you move on to, Tour of Swiss into the Tour de France. So you always pick these little peaks and goals, and then you still have to turn up to races and training camps with obviously large motivation, but you can switch on and off between, okay, I'm going here to perform at my best and try and win, as opposed to, okay, I'm going here to grab some form, help my teammates win, and then move on to my next objective. So I ended up doing that. I mean, a lot of bike riders do that for the whole way through the season. And, obviously there's races that self-select themselves for you as well. You've done well there in the past, so, I'll have a crack at it again this year. So it's, and then, races, okay, this one doesn't suit me. Sometimes don't even send me to that race because it's so hilly, or it's just beyond my capabilities. So it becomes one of those sort of situations where, miniature goals, primary goals, and then, objectives that are team objectives and objectives that are individual objectives.
Yep, all great points there. Just chunking the season up, periodization, basically giving yourself, so if you're not a professional bike rider, it's a long season. Maybe you've got a sportif in 6 months' time. Give yourself, maybe enter a smaller local sportif in 3 months' time to give you kind of a mid goal target. And ultimately, for me, I think variety is the spice of life. So, for example, say you're in your training and you're trying to build your aerobic base, say, and kind of your all-round sense of fitness and conditioning. There's multiple ways to do that. There's more than one way to skin a cat. So, you can do a bit of sweet spot work, a bit of your long steady group rides. You can do a bit of chain gang, bit of throwing off, mixing in with your local club. Throw in a Zwift race. It doesn't need to all be super regimented, where each week looks the same. I'd actually argue that mixing your sessions up. So say developing your base. Different types of sessions are gonna not only help with your motivation, but physically, that physical stimulus is going to be greater, and you'll kind of reach higher highs with kind of a wider variety of sessions. So variety, giving yourself some goals, and just getting down and doing the hard work and achieving those goals. So for me, there's nothing more rewarding and satisfying than hitting targets, improving, and kind of feeling that sense of improvement to kind of spur you on and motivate you.
Absolutely, mate. Sounds good.
Good man. Just quickly on that. When did your head ever completely fall off mid-season, Greg? Must have had some seasons where things weren't going your way.
Not really, because I was just I knew it was part of sport, like I think that's just the thing. And, I had some injuries, some pretty good injuries, but then again, like you said, it's that motivation to achieve and to come back and to chip away at little goals and tick that box and then, tick that box. So it was just a consistent, there was always something happening, you never actually got through a season without getting sick or without a small injury. So you're always sort of micromanaging yourself. I think that was the key.
Well, there we go. That's episode 14. Good to chat, Greg, and obviously really insightful stuff with Tim as well. So hope you enjoyed, everyone, and Greg, catch you soon, mate.
Righto, mate. Yep. Nice talking to you again, and Tim was fantastic. He's a great role model for sport, for triathlon, and he's a great mentor for the Zwift Triathlon Academy. So it was brilliant to have him on. Cheers, mate. We'll talk to you soon.